Yeah, I'm returning the Apple Watch Series 8.
Is that a new watch?
Poor sweet. I suppose he forgot to wind his watch last night.
Oh, this fancy
You wouldn't know
timepiece.
about last.
If you clicked on this video expecting me to bash the Series 8, I think you're gonna be disappointed. The Apple Watch Series 8 is actually a fantastic watch. I'm just not sure it's a fantastic update for me personally, but don't stress, in this video, we're gonna go over why it's not a great update for me, but I'll also go over who I think should consider this particular watch, as well as how it's been performing as my own personally daily driver for swimming, biking, and running. But, quick spoiler, it's actually been really good. Now, the Apple Watch Series 8 is a gorgeous always-on Retina AMOLED display smartwatch that comes in either a 41, which I'm showing here, or a 45mm option. And it has built-in GPS, it measures heart rate, it measures blood oxygen saturation levels, or it can even take an ECG. Now, while you're training, it'll show you things like your heart rate zones, your running stride length, ground contact time, vertical oscillation, or even your running power. And when you're in a triathlon, it can even automatically detect when you've finished one of your splits. For example, going from swimming to biking and then, running, for example, and it'll automatically make those splits for you during your race. And when you're actually in the pool swimming, it'll automatically detect kick sets and figure out what stroke you're doing. And it even has an all-new compass app that'll let you drop waypoints and backtrack your steps just in case you get lost. But here's the kicker. With all of that stuff, everything that I mentioned, it's all available on my previous edition of the Apple Watch, the Series 7. And I think, if you take a quick look at these two side by side, you really can't tell them apart. I think they're virtually indistinguishable. Just for kicks here, I will say that I switched the straps around just in case one of you, like eagle-eyed viewers, knew that the midnight black color was an Apple Watch 8 exclusive. This one here, this is actually the Series 8. So, with these two watches being, virtually identical, I thought it'd be a good idea just to quickly go over what's different about these two devices. Now, the new Apple Watch Series 8 has a new temperature sensor. Actually, there's two built into this new watch. One is built into the back crystal near the skin, and then the other one is actually underneath the display. Now, overnight, the Series 8 watch samples your body temperature every 5 seconds, and it can actually detect changes as small as 0.1 degrees Celsius. Now, Apple is primarily using this data to track ovulation cycles for women, which, I actually think is gonna be fantastic. I think it's definitely gonna help a lot of people. And I'd be excited to see if Apple was interested in using this to detect when someone was possibly sick, or even possibly monitoring someone's fitness and overall athletic goals. Now, currently, as a software developer, I didn't see any sort of way to access that data, but I can imagine, third-party developers making some pretty cool and interesting application based on that temperature information. Now, the Apple Watch Series 8 has also added crash detection. So the Series 8 has two new motion sensors. So that's a new 3-axis gyroscope and a high G-force accelerometer, which can detect up to 256 Gs of force. And it uses those two new motion detectors along with the watch's GPS and its barometer and its microphones to determine if you've been in a car crash. And when it does detect a crash, it can actually connect you with emergency services, provide your location, and notify your emergency contact person. And it's probably worth mentioning that that new crash detection feature is also going to be available in the new iPhone 14. Now, there are some new watch bands, there's some new watch faces, but there's actually been a ton of updates on the software side of things with watchOS 9. But all of those software updates, all of those things that are part of watchOS 9 are available to watches Series 4 and above. And I actually talked about, 10 new workout features in watchOS 9. I made a video about this last week, and I'll link it up here somewhere. But I briefly want to go over, swimming, biking, and running with this watch. And, overall, it's been really good. I like the new operating system, and I like the fact that it will automatically detect kick sets when I'm swimming. That's a feature that I've been wanting for a long time. And then when it comes to cycling, It doesn't seem to be a ton of specific features for cyclists, but it does track my cycling rides accurately. And, of course, it'll detect if I have any sort of crashes. Watch OS 9 now has the ability to show heart rate zones, which I find nice when I'm actually out cycling. But the Apple Watch still generally lacks a fair amount of connectivity with, third-party hardware. A lot of the cycling hardware that I use, so that's stuff like, cycling power meters or electronic gear selection, cycling radars, none of that stuff is gonna connect to my Apple Watch. And that's just, it's always been kind of an Apple Watch issue when it comes to cycling. Now the GPS tracking on this particular 34-kilometer bike ride, it does look good to me. If we zoom in, you can actually see that it tracks, very similar to the Garmin Forerunner 955 with its multi-band GPS tracking turned on, meaning that the Garmin is actually tracking multiple satellite systems at the same time to increase accuracy. This teal line over here that kind of strays off a bit is actually a cycling computer called the Trim 1 Lite. I'll have a full review of that particular cycling computer coming soon. But then on the running side, when we compare the Series 8 to a watch that is actually connected to a chest strap for heart rate, of course, a chest strap is, one of the most accurate ways to track your heart rate. But you can actually see that the Series 8, it struggles a little bit here at the beginning to get started, and then it locks right on to what the chest strap is reporting. So I would call this, really, really great data here. And then, a lot of improvements on the software side of things when it comes to running with the new metrics like running stride length, ground contact time, vertical oscillation, which are things that, in all honesty, I don't typically use. I don't really find them that helpful, but also running power, which is something that I do find very helpful personally. And it's actually a metric that I think a lot of people are gonna find, helpful when they're trying to pace their workouts or races in the future. So, a lot of great software updates. And, I think we're lucky because Apple is porting all of these software updates all the way back to the Series 4 watches, Series 4 and above. So, for me, it really just comes down to those few hardware advancements. And, for me personally, the new hardware improvements, they're good. They just don't necessarily justify spending the money on this latest, greatest Apple Watch Series 8 device. Now, I definitely think I would be more interested in updating if, ovulation tracking was extremely important to me, which, I know it is for a lot of you guys, but for some reason, it just never picked up on my cycle for some reason. Or, two, if I was on an older Apple Watch and it was getting to be about time for an upgrade, for me, maybe something along the lines of an Apple Watch Series 5 or earlier. I definitely think that GPS accuracy and heart rate accuracy, it really seemed to improve around the Apple Watch Series 6. What do you guys think? Is the Apple Watch Series 8 something that you would consider upgrading to? I should definitely mention that most people aren't upgrading at all. I think it's something along the lines of 70 to 75% of all Apple Watch purchases are people that are buying Apple Watches for the very first time. So, in that case, absolutely, snag the latest, greatest, snag the Series 8. But whatever you guys end up deciding, whatever you guys end up doing, I definitely hope that you will consider getting out there, swimming, biking, or running, and we will be sure to see you guys in the next video.